It was my birthday recently. Everyone was there. Friends, relatives, neighbors. There were gifts I received, but the strangest gift was something I was in no way expecting. From my parents. Sure, I thought they would get me something like a phone, a sweater, something useful, but I didn't expect them to get me a bed. I thought they wanted to please me with such an unusual gift, but they had another goal in mind, to get rid of junk in the house. The bed was on their junk list and they gave it to me. But so as not to upset them, I accepted the gift. This bed was very old, smelly, dirty, and it even had fleas that were merrily jumping around trying to jump on me. I don't know where they got it from. I didn't want to be embarrassed with this garbage in front of my friends, or for that matter, in front of guests who stopped by too often, and I immediately had the idea of putting the bed away in the old room in my house. I didn't need that room anyway, and I decided, why not, to leave the bed in it. After that, I forgot about the existence of the room with the bed and lived an ordinary life. But suddenly, this room caught my attention. In fact, I rarely went into it. But after I had this horrible bed in my house, I started to pay attention to it too often and went into that room where I put it. The thing is that I began to be disturbed by some strange and frightening sounds, and they came from the room where the bed stood. At first, they were just creaks, which I didn't pay any attention to. After all, the house was wooden and creaks were common, but then they turned into footsteps. At first, I thought it was a bird walking on the roof or some animal, but the footsteps became more and more frequent. No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't find the reason for these mysterious footsteps. So I just ignored them, and the creaks and the footsteps seemed to stop. But one fine night, the sounds took on a new level. When I was sitting quietly, not disturbing anyone, in my comfortable soft armchair and sleeping, dreaming of a fluffy sheep, I heard voices coming from the room where the bed was. They were quiet and were saying something. I couldn't make out exactly what it was. It made me wake up and get up from the chair. I slowly, sleepily wandered down the dark hallway, which was only illuminated by one small ray of moonlight coming through a window in the hallway. But no sooner had I reached for the doorknob to the room than I suddenly heard a soft scratching sound from the other side. This made me fully awake, and I carefully put my ear to the door and listened. But immediately, something hit the door. I stepped back fearfully. The blows were getting harder and harder by the second. The blows were followed by a hoarse sigh, and then a scream that definitely didn't belong to a beast. I froze, unable to move. With wide open eyes, I stared at the door and didn't realize what was happening. Sweat from fear dripped from my body. My heart was beating harder and harder. My hair stood on end and I didn't know what to do. Run away or open the door and see what was going on. Carefully, cautiously, I opened the door, mop in hand, and like a brave man, I entered the room and see. On the bed my parents had given me, some creature was sitting on the bed and making strange head movements. It was large, grayish black and skinny. Its arms were as long as its legs and toes. Its head was large with the remnants of hair, and its face was human. It slowly turned its head in my direction and screamed. I closed my eyes, told myself it wasn't real, and turned on the lights in the room. As soon as I opened my eyes, the creature sitting on the bed disappeared as soon as I turned on the light. But I suddenly woke up in a cold sweat in my bed. In my hands, I clutched the blanket. After looking around the room with frightened eyes and breathing a sigh of relief, I let go of the blanket and sat up on the bed. I wondered what it was, a dream or reality. Scratching the back of my head, I got out of bed and headed for the bathroom. Outside the window, the birds were singing, the sun was shining, and the city was buzzing. After washing my face and brushing my teeth, I went to the kitchen. Having prepared myself a fragrant cup of cappuccino, I sat down on a chair and stared mesmerized at the table, thinking, what was it? Was it really just my dream? Or was it my imagination playing out? Perhaps all these questions would have remained unnoticed, if not for one detail. After that night, I couldn't think about anything. My mind was a mess of questions. So, after sitting in the kitchen for a while, I went to the hall, forgetting to eat breakfast. I sat down in a chair, leaned back, and relaxed, but I was still plagued by one question. If I fell asleep in the chair I was sitting in, how did I get to my bed in the morning? Maybe I was just sleepwalking, or maybe, I'm afraid to admit it was real. So I sat with this question in my head, in my chair, for about 20 minutes, but something suddenly made me wake up. I came back from the world of questions to the real world. I was awakened by a sound, or rather a voice that said, "Lie down! Get down here! Lie down!" I immediately got up from the chair and went to the room where the bed was. Slowly opening the door, I entered the room, but no one was there. Angry that I didn't understand what was going on, I shouted, "What the hell are you doing? Leave me alone! I'm tired of hearing these noises. Stop it!" But I got nothing in return, so I left the room and closed the door and went to my parents' house to find out where they got the bed from. When I got there, I immediately asked them what kind of bed they had gotten me. Where did they even get it from? My mother was silent at first, but then decided to answer as suddenly my father interrupted her and told her that this bed had been passed down from generation to generation and that it had a special secret. But what that secret was, he didn't say. The night came on. I couldn't think about anything. Where did this bed come from? What secret is hidden in it? These questions racked my mind. When I got home, without undressing, I sat down in an armchair and decided to sleep. But I could not sleep. There was one terrible thought in my head. After thinking it over again, I decided to take a risk, trying to sleep in this bed. Slowly, with a creak, I opened the door. As I entered the room, a question arose in my mind. Would I regret spending the night in this bed? But curiosity took over. I walked over to the bed and lay down on it. I lay like that for about 5 minutes, and then I felt someone sit on my pillow. As I slowly turned my head towards the ceiling, I saw the same creature sitting on my pillow and looking at me. Because of the fear, I didn't move, and the monster, who was sitting on the pillow at first, began to move slowly to my feet, moving his hands and keeping his gaze on me. I didn't take my eyes off him either. Once seated, the monster stretched his bony hands toward my eyes. He slid his eyelids open and stared straight into my eyes. I could hear his breathing, slow and heavy. My heart began to pound faster and faster. One phrase popped into my mind: "I'm done." It was as if the creature was hypnotizing me. In the eyes of this monster, I saw black emptiness, horror, and fear. Unable to bear it, I opened my mouth and screamed, and this monster kept looking into my eyes. The next day. "You mean he's gone?" "No way," my father said. We'll keep looking for him, but if we don't find any trace of him in a few days, we'll have to stop looking," said the policeman. And so the day ended. The house where their son lived was sold, and the bed was thrown away. Questions about their son's disappearance remain a mystery. Where did he disappear to? What happened to him? Where might he be now? It is unknown. His search continues to this day, and the bed from the dumpster was taken by some people. They do not even suspect what awaits them in this horrible bed.